Okay, so basically we're just going to talk about Snohomish County real estate statistics today. Does anyone have any questions specifically about statistics, or I'm just going to go through and just kind of blast these things out?
Go and blast.
Go and blast. Oh, you want a copy?
Yes,
there you are, sir. So the question becomes is like, oh, the magic swirl. What direction has our market been going?
Down.
Down, yeah, absolutely. And then what is putting external pressure on our market? What's causing prices to fall?
Bank-owned short sales.
Bank-owned properties, short sales, economy. Anything else? Unemployment.
Lack of funding. The banks tighten.
Lack of financing, absolutely. I think the big four, just to summarize: short sales, bank-owned properties, high unemployment, and financing. Going back to short sales and REOs, why are, the REO bank-owned property, why is that causing the market to decline?
Because price drop. Aren't they selling for less than market value?
At times they're selling for less than market value. That's one factor.
Some of them are in less than great condition. Compared to a house that people are currently or have just recently been living in.
Absolutely correct, absolutely correct. So the house is being uninhabited, therefore it's going to sell for less. Todd, any thoughts?
Just a flood of more supply and demand.
Pitter patter, that's exactly actually what I was looking for. It's the supply. So when we have a ton of bank-owned properties, when we have a ton of short sales that are hitting the market at a high level, with that increased supply and demand being the same, what has to happen?
That has to go away before the price goes back up.
Well, in this situation, what it will do is it will cause prices to fall.
Okay.
And in order for prices to stabilize, as Todd was saying, one of two things needs to happen. Demand needs to increase, or supply, in this case inventory, needs to go down. One of those two things needs to happen. Okay, until then our market will continue on a downward trend. When did our market peak?
Late 2007.
That's when it started to decline in late 2006, I think is when it.
Greg?
Early 07.
Fourth quarter 2007.
No, I wish my data went back further than that. June of 07. June of 07 was the peak of our local market, but you're right, it kind of started going all over the place. But it was the last time we saw it go up was June of 07. And then after that we started our steady decline. What has the market come down since June of 07? Or let's just forget June, mid 07. And when I'm saying the market, I'm talking specifically about Snohomish County real estate right now.
30%.
A little over 30%, you're absolutely correct. Specifically, when we look at our 3-year graph that we've included right here, you can see that, so your red bars, and you guys have this information in front of you, but your red bars are your for sale, okay? Your blue are your under contract, and your green are your sold properties. Specifically, the sold properties since fourth quarter of 07 have come down 26.9%, with a median price change of $96,100. So that means since 07, what we've been selling has come down almost $100,000. You can also see that the under contract and the properties that are still for sale have actually depreciated at a higher number than that. What is that telling you?
Prices are continuing to drop.
If something is for sale for less than what it just sold for, prices are still continuing down. Any questions about like the overview of the market? $92 properties last week reverted to banks and lenders. And we're seeing that every week. Where anywhere from 50 to 100 properties are going back. Specifically here in Snohomish County, and I apologize, I don't have the exact stat in front of me, I believe it was 219 I'll double check on that one though, but
219 in all of Snohomish County?
in the whole county, 219 properties went back to the bank.
Last week?
No, last month,
Okay.
in December 2010. And that was actually a slight decrease than what we had been seeing before.
Yeah, because of holiday.
Because of the holiday, absolutely.
Also, we had that
That glitch.
little thing that was happening in the judicial states that
In
kind
the
of put some
media,
of the banks
right.
a little slower.
Yeah, the robo-signer problem.
Glitch.
Yeah, glitch. And then basically what they did was they delayed foreclosures in most judicial states and they slowed them down in quite a few others. And you saw your big banks do that. You saw your Chase, your B of A, your PNC.
We're back at it though.
Most of them are back at it, but we are a non-judicial foreclosure state, so it did not affect us at that high of a level.
Plus, with the snow, it's harder for the big wrecking trucks to hook up to your house and pull it away.
So what happened last year?
I think the market's down 12% again or something like that. Is that what I read?
Well, different markets may be, so we're going to talk, specifically just about Snohomish County. So Snohomish County itself,
Which page is that, Anton?
I'm looking at market dynamics, median price sold 1 year monthly.
It's up as up front.
Yeah, just the green graph.
Green.
So what we see there is we see a 7.7% depreciation in the median price, or around $22,000. What does that mean when you're talking to a buyer or a seller? Break that down for me.
That means that they're losing just slightly and under $2,000 a month.
Okay, a good way to put it would be to say, Mr. Seller, your house is currently depreciating at around $2,000 a month, provided they're the average median price home.
Right.
But that's a great way to put it. Another way to talk about this data would just say the market is depreciating slightly more than 0.5% a month. Okay, so 7% for the year is a little bit larger than 0.5% a month. Or you could say 0.5% to a full percent a month, because you can see that some months were worse than others. I 100% agree with you. I think there's actually multiple opportunities. Let me explain. Because homes have reached or are becoming what they call more affordable, the affordability index. In other words, the total percentage of your income that you have to spend every month on your mortgage has started to get closer. And we actually have homes now under 200 in the area, versus 3 years ago they just didn't even exist.
That you can actually move into and live in without.
That are livable, exactly. That's not a bulldozer. So you've got multiple opportunities here. You have opportunities for that first-time home buyer because of extremely low interest rates and the affordability. You have opportunities in the next section up, that move-up buyer who has equity, who didn't use a HELOC to go buy a boat, a car, an RV, and go on 20 vacations. Okay, so that person who still has equity, they have an opportunity to either retain their original house as a rental, because maybe it doesn't make financial sense to sell it in today's market, and then purchase up. And you also see people who are in this kind of upper range, let's just call it the 400 and above, who have the opportunity to move from their house into a very nice luxury home that most likely used to cost almost twice the amount it cost before.
Or buy rental property with the eye of holding it for the equity investment.
Absolutely. Or they could buy rental properties. The other thing that we're seeing in the area, Greg and I were having this conversation with an investor recently, is that properties are getting back to cash flow because they're becoming affordable. Now, here's a great question. So we already know the market's dropped over 30%. What if rental rates dropped in the local market?
They haven't, I don't believe at all.
They almost haven't. They've come down like 50 to 100 bucks max. So you've got
Some
these.
areas not at all.
In some areas, not at all, definitely. So you've got these houses that are now $100,000 cheaper that are rented for almost the same amount. So you've got single families, duplexes, things like that are becoming, great assets, great cash flow situations. Any questions, thoughts? So you're sitting in front of your clients, you're at the cocktail party, you want to explain to someone what's going on. You look at December versus December, and then year to date versus year to date. This is overall Snohomish County real estate, and we're talking about the number of units right here. What are these numbers telling you? Those first two numbers.
They're less this year than it was last year, December.
Okay, so there are 10.1% less closings this year than there were last year in December. And what are the year-to-date numbers telling you?
That
We're
we're
up
up
6.3.
overall 6.3%.
That we sold 6.3% more homes in 2010 than we did in 2009. So 2008 being the worst for the local market. We're doing a little better in 2009 and just barely better in 2010. Okay, now looking at this average price. Snohomish County, average price, December of 2009 versus December of 2010. What we saw was an 8% depreciation. Or, another way to look at it is, in December, $313,000 was the average price in the area, and today it's $288,000. And of course, there's some change and some extra numbers on
That's
there.
about 0.75% on average.
About 0.75% a month, absolutely correct. Okay, when you look at the year-to-date, the average price, we're seeing a 5.7. Now let's move into the median. What's the difference between average and median?
Average is the simple averaging of all the prices. Median is 50% above, 50% below the median price.
Great way to describe it. Average is you add them all together, divide by the total. Median is the middle of the road where, as Lance very eloquently put, 50% of the properties are going to exist above that and 50% are going to exist below. Okay? So median is not swayed as much by drastic shifts versus average would be. So if a $10 million home sold, that's going to move the average up and down a lot. Okay? Same thing if a $2,000 house sells. Versus that won't affect the median as much. Make sense?
Yeah, medians aren't as sensitive to extremes.
Absolutely correct, sir. Okay, so when we compare December versus December, we saw a 7.6% drop, and then year-to-date for all of 2010 compared to 2009, we saw an 8.3% drop. We saw the average days on market for December increase slightly, but year-to-date, it was actually down a little bit. Okay. Moving into, and I'm just going to go through each one of these cities specifically. If we have any questions about the numbers, feel free to ask. Okay, so for the city of Snohomish, and I'm going to skip just December and I'm going to just talk about the whole year now. So for the whole year, Snohomish saw a 17.4% increase in sales. In other words, Snohomish did almost 3 times better than the county did as a whole. Once again, you got to break this down for each one of your neighborhoods, because there may have been neighborhoods in Snohomish that underperformed this and ones that overperformed this. Okay. Here's a very interesting thing to look at in relation. Here you go, Melinda. Here's that.
I'm so sorry for being late.
No, it's
I owed a cake. No, it isn't okay. It's gonna be
So, let me, guys, ask you this. Why in Snohomish is the depreciation for both the average year-to-date and the median year-to-date greater than overall for the county?
Or properties sold to compare with.
In that area, why is it greater than the overall county? What's 750?
For the city of Snohomish.
For the city of Snohomish,
The city of Snohomish greater than the county. And I'm just taking a wild guess, stab in the dark here, but what I'm going to say is properties, generally speaking, in Snohomish, and you have a much higher average. Therefore, that's that upper price ranges, because we all know those $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 homes in Snohomish. So Snohomish as a city has depreciated more in the market because it has more expensive inventory.
Plummeted.
More room to fall.
More room to fall.
But obviously they dropped the prices to increase the sales.
Well, that's a great,
That's true.
that's very true.